5 was first on the scene tonight when a tiger escaped the local zoo and attacked a 70-year-old woman. A local man also finds dinosaur bones in his backyard, and global awareness manifests as Ghana's forest population continues to decrease.
Now with our leading story. Ghana, a beautiful land once known as the Gold Coast, is not as rich as it once was. Deforestation has removed much of the once abundant rainforest. And now to Michael, who is live in Ghana this evening.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm live here in Ghana, and like you said, it was once known as the Gold Coast. It was a British colony that was first established in 1821, and in 1957 became the first sub-Saharan colony to gain its independence. The population here is about 26.7 million people, and their government is similar to our own. It's a constitutional democracy. There are three main segments of the economy here. There's the service with 50.7%, the industry with 21%, and agriculture with 28.3%. 28.5% of the population live below the poverty line. In comparison, in the U.S., it's about 15.1% of the population. Ghana's unemployment is 11%, and to compare that to the U.S., it's about 7.8%, and that's one of the worst economic times in the U.S. The hard economic lives have put a lot of force on the forests here, and deforestation is a common occurrence. There's about 22.7 acres of forest in Ghana. Of those, 4.4 million acres are well preserved, and deforestation occurs at a rate about 4.7 million acres per year.
Thank you, Michael. Sounds like Ghana has a lot of health problems, and I bet that all that deforestation is responsible for a lot of them.
And next we will see how Ghana's government and the health of the local people have affected deforestation in this area. Good evening, Randy.
Thanks for having me this evening. The weather out here is pretty rough, but hopefully I can shed some light on the subject before the storm rolls in tonight. Ghana as a country spans about 240,000 square kilometers, making it about the same size as our state, Oregon. The climate here is pretty warm, very tropical, and like Michael said, the country inhabits about 27 million people, dating back since July, and of course that number is growing ever since. Of that 240,000 square kilometers, a little more than a third of it is covered by forests. Now, government in Ghana is a major part of its constitutional democracy. With the capital held in Accra, most of Ghana's democratic system is developed and based off of a lot of other countries, similar to our own. Three branches, executive, judicial, and legislative, make up their system. And expenditures reached about 10.38 billion last year, and revenues 8.796 billion the same year.
As far as the current situation of Ghana and its inhabitants go, health has been pretty low in the past 10 years. With the continuation of deforestation, food and waterborne diseases continue to grow exponentially. Many bacterial and protozoal diarrhea sicknesses continue to spread across the land as forests can no longer play the big role in preventing such diseases as they have in the past. Illnesses such as hepatitis A, typhoid fever, animal contact diseases like rabies, respiratory diseases like meningococcus meningitis, and other vector-borne diseases like malaria have been on the rise. Contaminated water has also been a serious threat to society, considering diseases such as schistosomiasis has been known to travel through water sources. One of the biggest killers in the area includes HIV/AIDS, which happened to wipe out 18,000 victims in 2009. Since then, Ghana has managed to become the 18th highest ranked country for HIV/AIDS infections.
Like Michael was saying, with all these negative effects of the precious forest being depleted, there is an upside. With nearly half of the country covered by forests, over 250 plants contain medicinal properties, and more are being discovered every single day. In Ghanaian culture, the traditional belief is that these medicine and herbs were created by God, because he created each disease to match a cure. Throughout most of the villages surrounding the forest, the indigenous communities passed down knowledge of such plants within each generation preceding it. With the help of the community leader, the leaders and the healers blend the spirituality of medicine and other medicinal properties to heal the body and both the mind. The spirits and the gods themselves guide them into the forest in order to find each plant that has been spiritually endowed and the ability to heal a given alignment. To these indigenous people, sicknesses and diseases is caused by unbalance between the afflicted and the outside world, which includes the community as well as the spirits. Only after restoring this balance can the sickness be cured, although there are various plants, which Michael will explain in a minute.
Fan palm is a large tree that can be found in all of Ghana, especially near water. Its roots are used to treat asthma. Morinda leucaida is a softwood tree that is found in the forests of Brog, Ahafo, and Ashanti regions. Its leaves are used to treat stroke, and its stem and roots treat malaria, dysentery, and typhoid fever. Sandpaper tree is a shrub or small tree that is found in the secondary forest area. Its leaves are used to treat a certain form of cancer and headaches. The bark is used for treating hemorrhoids and wounds. Guava is a shrub that is found in all tropical regions of Ghana. The entire plant is used to treat diarrhea, measles, and herpes. Salt and oil tree is a tree that is found in the Brog, Ahafa, and Ashanti regions. Its bark is used to treat hepatitis.
So yeah, as Michael was saying, these medicinal plants of Ghana are a product of the extensive biodiversity of the forest. Many can be found only in the primary old-growth forest and are forever lost if their habitat is cleared or urbanized. In the past decade, though, the natural form to being refined is into pharmaceuticals. The product of this is prescribed medicine that is not only used to heal the people of Ghana, but is also being exported to other countries. This gives the forest a whole new sense of worth that will make its preservation an investment that can create a profit instead of a loss of timber and development of land.
Interesting how many medicines come from the forests of Ghana. Imagine how many lives are affected by the plants and animals nested in a different forest. Randy, since you seem so comfortable there in the wilderness, would you mind telling us a little more about Ghana's forest and how products from the area are used?
Absolutely, Lindsay. Thank you again. As you can see, I'm here in my hotel room here in Ghana. And as you may know, Ghana is home to about 4 different types of forests, ranging from the wet evergreens located right of the coast, all the way to this dry, semi-deciduous forest, closer to the midpoint of the country. It's within this approximate 180 kilometers of forest that the thousands of species of plants and animals come from. I mean, including the 250 different medicinal uses for them. Take, for instance, the savanna forest in Ghana. Rainfall here typically tends to be less than 1,200 millimeters a year, which in turn fuels the evergreen forest to have a yellowish, very acidic, and low nutrient soil.
So with the soil being acidic in that area, does it mean that it is dangerous to the indigenous people if they were to plant or raise livestock on this land?
Good question. Even though it can be very hazardous, typical products harvested from the forest in these areas include lumber and timber that goes towards the greater good of the society. If we look at the species of trees that grows here, say moist evergreen forests of Ghana, then we could definitely find the dominance of, say, Mimoskian and Calopiskian tree species. An example would be a tree formerly called a Tripotian skiren, but also known as Wawa tree. This tree can be best described as being up to 150 feet tall and made of a clean, creamy, white colored timber. This tree species is naturally easy to regenerate and is composed of a soft wood that proves strong for its density. Wood such as this is primarily used for production of corkstock, plywoods, blockwoods, and say, furniture even.
You must be having a blast there with all the diverse nature. That's pretty cool that there are white-colored wood growing in such a moist environment there in Ghana.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it is an eventful climate and atmosphere here. I want to also mention how certain tree species get regenerated and repopulated throughout the forest in Ghana. Now, typically, elephants carry seeds over many kilometers and in significant volume. On average, the forest elephant eats up to 150 kilograms of plant material a day. So, in response to that mass amount of eating, about 135 kilograms of droppings commence a day as well. Now, seeds pass right through the elephant and therefore get dispersed.
So the Ghana elephant of the forest helps spread the plantation of different tree species. I'd imagine that this tree species, Taiga Hamala heckley, must have some type of fruit or product that would attract the Ghana forest elephant to eat it.
Yeah, the tree species known as the Tigella hickley mostly gets dispersed through the Ghana elephant. I'm not sure if you know about the hickley species, but it's mainly used for nuts and timber, much like that used to build the Hotel I'm in. And yes, it does produce fruits between September and October, which in turn do attract elephants in Ghana.
Today we have an interview that I conducted with Dr. Emmanuel Frimpong from Virginia Tech to give us a deeper insight into his experiences of living in Ghana. Let's go take a look at that interview. What are some of the cultural differences between Ghana and the U.S.? I guess we'll start off by saying, you said there were 6 different dialects. How does that affect the overall culture with that, with those languages?
So there are a lot of, and obviously more than 6 really dialects, because some languages get grouped together because they are so similar. But about 6 national languages that are spoken frequently, and people do speak their local languages mostly. That's the mode of communication in markets, in homes, etc. But Ghana is also a British colony, and so we do have a national language. The national language is English, and that's the common language unites us. It unites us a lot more than when we go to the local languages. It's hard to find somebody who can speak more than 1 or 2 of the local languages.
How do government regulations affect environmental policy and the control of those policies?
The government does have a lot of regulations, mostly copying regulations in developed countries, environmental laws controlling water use and pollution, environmental laws controlling air pollution, deforestation, all these things. But the government does not have the capacity to enforce its own regulation. So there is a lot more regulation making than regulation enforcement.
All right, and would you even say that there's too much regulation, too much emphasis on regulation and not enough on enforcement?
Exactly. So it's the inability to enforce regulation because of lack of capacity to really enforce the kind of regulation that we sometimes copy and try to implement in less developed countries.
Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel, for sharing your story with us and providing ways for us to help the people of Ghana. If you are interested in supporting Ghana with your time or money, please call 1-800-GHANA.
Deforestation in Ghana, government regulation, the cultures and practices used in Ghana, and how the people are constantly dependent on the forest.
Without stronger government policies and public awareness, Ghana's health is only going to get worse. Now let's take a look into our tiger story.
Oh, shit!